Hello and welcome back to Jacubication. Today you're going to learn about objects in JavaScript. Objects are an unordered collection of properties, each of which has a value. Property names are usually strings. Objects map strings to values, basically a hash table or a dictionary if you're already familiar with that. Also inherit properties from their prototype. This is prototypal inheritance. A copy of an object, just using the assignment operator, will result in a shallow copy. Properties. Properties have a name and a value in a single object element. No object can have more than one property with the same name. Each property has three attributes: writable, whether value of the property can be set; enumerable, whether the property name is returned in a for-in loop; configurable, whether the property can be deleted, and whether its properties can be changed. Object literals. Object literal, comma-separated list of name-value pairs. Example, let x equals curly braces a:1, b:2. A maps to 1 and B maps to 2. The names don't have to be string literals. Creating object with new. Let x equals new object. New object that's empty. Object with parentheses is the constructor. Prototype. Prototype, the object that initial object inherits from. Object literals prototype, object.prototype. Objects created with some constructor, new x, get their prototype from x's prototype property. New object, object.prototype. New array, array.prototype. Object.prototype has no prototype. Most objects created with constructors have a prototype that inherit from object.prototype. Prototype chain. Do something like x equals new array. X inherits properties from both array.prototype and object.prototype, called the prototype chain. Object.create creates a new object. First argument is a prototype of that object. To create a new object with no prototype, object.create null. To create a regular empty object, object.create, object.prototype. You can use object.create to guard against functions that modify the original object. Getting and setting properties. Two ways to get the value of a property. Dot or square brackets. Left hand side should be an object. If dot right hand side is the name of the property as a string. Getting. Let age equals person.age. Let age equals person square brackets age. Setting. Person.age equals 23. Person, the square brackets age equals 23. Inheritance getting. Objects. Set of own properties. This isn't bad grammar. The properties of an object that it hasn't inherited are called own properties. Inherit set of properties from prototype object. Suppose getting property x from object O. If O doesn't have own property with name x, O's prototype tries to get the property x. If O's prototype doesn't have an own property x but has a prototype, the prototype of O's prototype is searched. The process nests like that until the x property is found, or an object with a null prototype is found. Inheritance setting, assign property x to object O. If O has own property x, assignment changes the value if it exists. If O inherited the property x, the inherited property is now hidden. If O simply has no x property, it's created. Property access errors. O.x is undefined if O has no inherited property or own property named x. Getting a property of an object that doesn't exist is an error. Null and undefined have no properties. Property access fails if left-hand side of dot is null or undefined. Deleting properties. Delete removes property from object. Use on a property access expression. Delete p.age deletes p's age. Delete only deletes non-inherited properties. Delete evaluates to true if delete succeeded. Delete had no effect. Delete doesn't remove properties that aren't configurable, like properties of built-in objects or properties of the global object. Seen if a property exists. In returns true if the object has an own property or inherited property by a name. Let A equals x maps to 1. X in A, true. toString in A, true. That's because it inherited the true string property from object.prototype. Has own property. True if the object has an own property with a given name. Let A equals x map to 1. A.has own property x, true. A.has own property string, toString is false, because it's not an own property, it inherited that from object.prototype. Property is enumerable, true only if the named property is an owned property and it's enumerable. Seen if a property exists? Simple trick. Let A equals x map to 1. O.x doesn't equal undefined, but this falls apart if a property exists but it is undefined. Combining object. Let A equals A map to 1. Let B equals B map to 1. Object that assign AB. A is now A map to 1, B map to 2. That's the simplest example. If you're copying object B into object A and they both share some properties, you'll have to take some caution. You'll want to do either the following object assign call with the object whose properties you want to take precedence at the end, object.assign empty object BA, or use the spread operator, which will be explained more later in the same order. A equals spread B, comma, spread A. Serializing objects. Serialization, converting an object to a string from which it can later be restored. JSON.stringify serializes objects. JSON.parse restores JavaScript objects. JSON, JavaScript object notation, cannot represent all JavaScript objects. NaN, infinity, and negative infinity are serialized to null. Date objects serialize to ISO formatted date strings and aren't restored properly. Function, regular expressions, error, undefined, can't be serialized or restored. toString method takes no arguments, returns some representation of the object as a string. JavaScript uses this method when it needs to convert the object to a string. Concatenate an object with a string. Pass an object to a method that expects a string. Default toString method returns object. Other classes like arrays define their own toString method. To define your own, let person equals age 23, name Bob, toString function return, and then that's string interpolation, so it literally inserts name and it literally inserts age, and then that's define your own toString method. Shorthand properties. If you have two variables A and B with a value and you want to create an object with those key names and their values, you can do let x equals 1, let y equal 2, let O equals x comma y, and that will make it so x maps to 1 and y maps to 2. Computed property names. Make your property name a function string return value or a constant. Const greet equals hi. Function give boo, return boo. Let O equals square brackets greet maps to 1, so hi will map to 1. Square brackets give boo, so it returns boo, so boo will map to 2. Spread operator. Copy properties of an existing object into a new object. Let A map to 1, let B equal B map to 2. Let C equals spread A, spread B. A maps to 1 and B maps to 2. If you're spreading out multiple objects with shared properties, the last object spread in with shared properties will take precedence over previous ones. Let A equals A map to 1, let B equals A map to 2. Let C equals spread in A, spread in B. B's A will take precedence over A's A, so it'll be A mapping to 2. Shorthand methods. Methods, a function defined as a property of an object. Let person equal name is Bob. That's a mistake. It should be string Bob, not just Bob. Age 23. Introduce console.log. Hi, I am this.name. Accessor properties. Getter. Let person equals name map to Bob. Age maps to 23. Get age. Return this age. You gotta have the get, and then the get age will be your getter. Person.getAge will get the age. Setter. Let person equals name maps to Bob. Age maps to 23. Set age, you pass in an argument n, this.age equals n, and you want to use the setter, person.setAge equals 5, sets age to 5. Assuming that person object, if you do let child equals object.create person, child.setAge equals 6 will call person setAge on child. It doesn't create a new setAge property on child. Ciao.